Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Haynes. I'm an audiobook narrator, and this is part of what I call the Process Project, where I am taking works by various authors and showing you folks how I apply my technique to those works. And then the second video in each session is where I get to interview the author about their process. So I am delighted to have Debra Parmley, author of Dancing Butterfly, with me today. Welcome, Debra.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Deborah, the focus for this particular video series is about the momentum of escalation, and then also sometimes being at rest, if that is indeed what happens sometimes in your action sequences. This book, just right from the bat, with the sample that you provided me, is just action and suspense and kinetics and all that sort of thing. And, I've got my technique when narrating for, okay, it seems like things are surprising here, and then there's the follow through here. So I'm just going to go steady, steady, steady. And then here's the new surprise. Um, do you find yourself thinking about these things as you're writing action sequences?
When I write action sequences, to me, they're like a dance, they're like a choreography. And so there's a pacing to it. Um, they're not all the same. I mean, it's not a cookie cutter thing that I do. It depends on the story and what's happening to the story people.
Hmm.
But I like things to have some pauses. Just it lets your reader catch up. It also gives your reader a chance to see what's going on with a particular character, and it can add extras to the scene. Often, action scenes, especially if it's a fight scene, it's go, 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 go. There's no let up to it whatsoever. And it's kind of like, I think when we read, or if we're reading out loud, it's like having the comma where you need it. You have to catch your
Mhm.
breath. It just
Right.
continual is too much.
You see, I'm,
The
I'm particularly sensitized to that also as a narrator.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I like to think it can deepen the story and pull you into a character more. So, for instance, this section that you did for me, it's in the first two chapters. I don't build up a lot in my stories. I jump right in um, because that's where the exciting part is, and it will pull you in just as fast as the little details. You know them, as you're writing them, but everyone doesn't have to know all the little details. And it's kind
Mm.
of like, um, what's on this on it, it's like theater. What's drawing focus right now? Over here, you're drawing focus. You know what's going on over here with everyone else, but you're drawing focus for now over here because there's something important you want your listener or your watcher, your reader to know. Um, and in this particular case, uh, we have a dancer who breaks her foot, which is a pretty key thing. Anyone could break their foot, but for a dancer who makes her living dancing in one of Al Capone's clubs to break her foot at a key moment in the story, um, that was essential to zero in on. So I slowed it down just a little bit to do that. And in the meantime, the hero's upstairs. He's shooting guns upstairs. I know what they're doing, who's shooting who, where the bullets are going, but I don't have to necessarily draw the reader to that at that moment. That's what I mean by drawing focus. So things can be happening off stage or in the background, but what draws focus is really important to help your reader really get a good grasp of the story and a deeper understanding of the characters.
Just marvelous. I love the way you're framing this too. And do you find that in the editing process, you have to sort of take a look at the text and just be like, this is something that the reader doesn't have to have spelled out for them.
Yes,
This is slowing things down.
right, right. Well, there's the reader wanting to know and the reader needing to know, which are two
Mm,
different
mm,
things. And
mm.
wanting to know is great because that means that they're caught up in the story and they want to know. But if you give them all the answers right away, well, there's not much story left. And we in real life, when we get to know people, our neighbor, the new neighbor that moved in next door, you don't find out everything about them right off the bat. It's a gradual process. And I think if we do that on our stories, that's also a good way, because it's a natural thing. What is a normal thing to know at this point in time between these two characters? And sometimes the things that they don't know about each other make the story even better, because then the character is surprised and in turn the reader is surprised, and it's just a symbiotic sort of a thing to me.
I remember in Stephen King's book Bag of Bones, which is about an author, how there's a suspense sequence, an action sequence, and something along the lines of he couldn't wait to get started writing it. Do you find that those sequences, like the one that I was narrating, are the ones you look forward to, or are they ones where it's sort of like, oh, it's going to be a rough day of shooting because we got, all the stunts and all this stuff to juggle and all this information to come out? Do you find yourself looking forward to certain kinds of sequences in your books more than others?
I do. I like writing the action. In this particular case, because there's history tied into it that's real. There actually is a bar called the Green Mill, and there is a trap door behind that bar, and there are tunnels down into Chicago. So when they're escaping down, those are real tunnels. I've seen the trap door. I've been in the bar. So it's exciting to me because I can bring to life in the story things I've seen or heard about, and they're real. So it's easy to make something that you have seen or experienced real because you know it's real in a story. And it's exciting to put the details in there that you wouldn't have known if you hadn't gone there and seen it. I just found that exciting. Now, I didn't go down under the tunnels, so I had to imagine that part, but I did enough research that I could make it pretty realistic. So.
What you're talking about also makes me think, if we extend the theater metaphor, it's literally as if, since you've been there, it's like you've got this wonderful set now that's in your hands, and you get to decide how to populate it and choreograph the action and stuff. Is it
Yes,
something like that?
exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll play with that choreography too, because it is like a dance. I mean, there's a difference if you go left, stage right, big difference in who's there and who's doing what, and who do you pull in and who do you who do you put into the scene? Who do you pull out of the scene? You can play with that, and it can make it fun because you can have a couple different versions and then pick which one you feel like is the best one for the story. So you're not set in stone with it any more than you are with a choreography. I mean, there's no set rule that says you have to do 3 steps to the left and 3 steps to the right. You can change these things up, and that makes it fun. I used to find it difficult to write fight scenes because you have to know who's where, what are their hands doing, what are their feet doing, how's their body turn. You have to know a lot to do a fight scene. But when I learned to play with it a little bit and do those things, change it up some, and stop feeling like it was, the end of the world if I didn't do it a certain way, I started to have more fun with it. And I came up with some better options as I wrote. And I think if I'm having fun writing it, then the reader will have fun reading it.
Well, I certainly had fun with it.
Good.
Who are some authors or some works that have inspired you as you continue to play in these wonderful worlds?
Well, I read widely across genres. But there's actually there was a pivotal moment. I've had books out since 2008. So back then, books had to be 100,000 words or they wouldn't even look at them. I'll never forget reading Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code when had hit the top of the lists, and the chapters were so short and the pacing was so fast. Halfway through, I set the book down and I kind of just sat back and went, "Oh, this is going to change things," because the readers liked that faster pacing, and you can't do that with a 100,000 word book. It's a different type of book. You can't, the big heavy novels that we were used to they're still popular in certain genres, but novellas have become super popular. And I think the reason is the faster pacing. So I started writing more novellas with faster pacing because of that. And I really enjoy that. I started out writing short stories. So for me, it wasn't too big of a stretch to go into a novella. Although all three of those genres they're their own. It's kind of like the Olympics. One's a high jump, one's a long jump, one's, hurdles. They're all track, but they're different muscles that you're using to get that done. So that was probably the key pivotal moment for me. I knew I'd be writing shorter and faster. And as far as just in general, I read a lot of thrillers and suspense because there's action adventure in those. And even though I'm writing military romantic suspense and historical romance, all of my stories have action. I lose interest if they don't. So I've got to have that in a romance for me to enjoy it. Mark Graney's one. I lived in Memphis for 23 years. He lives in Memphis, and he co-wrote with Tom Clancy for a while, and then he went on to write the Gray Man series, which has been made into a Netflix film. He's very good at action adventure scenes, and there's no excess there, and I never lose interest, and it just keeps it moving. The pacing is really good. I think if you get your hands on if you're writing action adventure, get your hands on any of the authors that are doing really well in the thriller genre, that they're masters of the action and the pacing. They really do it well.
Mm. It reminds me of the story of Mario Puzo before, just as he was releasing The Godfather, which, it was like the whole idea was that, it was going to be a serious novel, but also it was infused with all the entertainment values and craft that he had developed writing tens of pulp stories and books.
Yeah.
He really broke through in terms of creating something that could be very critically assessed, but at the same time was had the feel of a good rip roaring pulp.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever listened to an audiobook of a text that you've already read visually?
Yes, I have.
And what's that been like for you? Have you had sort of like highs and lows?
I've had both, really. I enjoy if it's a story, an older story like the classics, or even a fairy tale or something like that. I like different takes. It's kind of an opposite thing with me because I like the different takes on these classic stories that many people have put their mark on, shall we say. Kind of like people do versions of Shakespeare, and it's a little different with each actor, and that can be fun. But if I have not read the story yet, I would prefer to listen to it first, kind of like going to the movies, because if I read it first and then in my head I hear the character differently, then that can pull me out. I guess my one pet peeve, though, is when the narrator is stretching where they can't stretch. Like, let's say a female narrator is trying to do a deep voiced male and can't quite get there. That pulls me out of the story, and now I'm paying attention to the narration instead of the story. And I think anything that pulls us away from story should be avoided if we can help it. So yeah.
Right. And I mean, that is like the ultimate goal of a narrator. The listener should be thinking, what a great story, rather than what a great performance.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or what a great story, as opposed to what a poor performance, but the idea is to, it's the idea.
I'll be sitting there and I'll be hoping that she can get there with the voice, and then it doesn't come through, and I'll think, oh, darn it. But now I'm thinking, oh, darn it, instead of listening to the story. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, Debra, thank you. And just a reminder for our viewers, the book and where it can be found, and other titles in your catalog.
Okay. Well, I write widely across the romance genre. So you can find me at debraparmley.com. And my books are wide, so you can find them pretty much anywhere books are sold. order them at your local bookstore. And I have a lot of social media. I have a YouTube channel, Beautiful Day. And I also do some travel writing because I live in a motorhome full time and travel through the US. And I have a travel blog, so I do a little bit of writing about that too. Um, I have a 1920s series about flappers, which is the one that you've narrated. And I write historical romance and military romantic suspense with seals and so there's a wide range. If you go to my website, you'll find quite a few different varieties of things. I'm a Gemini, so I won't be satisfied only doing one thing.
Uh, well, terrific. Thank you again, Deborah. And
Thank
folks,
you.
as your narrator and as your guide through the world of narration, I'm Matt Haynes. I hope that my voice and your ears meet again real soon.
Thanks so much, Matt.